Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Shrute Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Lokashankaram. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahmavidvaram. Sadgurum Brahmavidvaram. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gradita Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshini Bhagavati Ashtadashadhyayini Ambatvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshini Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutah Stunvante Devyai Stavaihi Vedai Sangapadakramopanisadaihi Gayantiyam Samagah Dhyanavastitadadgatena manasa Pashyantiyam yogino Yasyantam na vidussura suraganah Devaya tasmai namaha. Devaya tasmai namaha. Hari Om. So we've been seeing the story of Mahabharata, and we reached the point where Hastinapura is now being ruled by Pandu, the younger brother of Dhritarashtra. Even though Dhritarashtra was the elder one, he could not rule because he was born blind. According to the law of the land, a person with such defect cannot rule. This was the rule at that time. We cannot employ and argue that that should not be the case. The current day situations are different. That is not a major handicap. He can still do it. Don't bring all those kinds of norms. That was the norm at that time. Dhritarashtra was healthy otherwise. He was just fine. He was intelligent too. But he also had his defect, the eyesight, and therefore he cannot be the ruler, cannot be the king. And he was married to Gandhari, and she blindfolded herself. And Pandu was married to Kunti and Madri. Everything was going well, but something has to happen. Otherwise, the story will not move. If we say they lived happily thereafter, story closed. So that cannot happen. Mahabharata is a big story. Yes, Pandu was great. His rule was very good. The queens were also very great, but some incompleteness was there. So problem is always there. What was the problem? They were not blessed with a child immediately. That was the problem. And one day, Pandu went for hunting. So he saw a pair of deer in Kama Krida. A deer couple were making love. And he shot an arrow at them and killed one deer. Then what happened? Suddenly, to his surprise and shock, horror, a rishi emerged from the body of the deer. We wonder, what are these rishis? They are also very strange, I tell you. Why should he take a form of a deer for Kama Krida? I don't know. And we cannot also ask such questions to the rishis. Whatever happened is reported. And when that happened, that rishi cursed him. And we all know that rishis are very good at cursing. They have this curse in their pocket, just like we keep a pocket kerchief. They have it. So when they get mad, immediately they curse. So the rishi cursed him. When you make love to you, you'll die. What a terrible curse. Rishis should not give such curses. True. Anyway, what to do? That rishi did that. Of course, a hunter shouldn't have shot an arrow at those deer in that situation. That is also wrong. We even say when somebody is sleeping, we should not disturb. Again, when somebody is in this act, leave them alone. We should not disturb them. Sure, was a mistake on the part of Pandu. Rishi could have given him a minor sentence, at least less. But this is what the Rishi's curse was. And he couldn't say anything. So he came back. What to do? The rulers of Hastinapura have problems getting children to keep the succession going. Their succession planning was not that great. But unfortunately, such planning is not in their hands. Nothing was easy for them. Pandu thought, I will do some penance to expiate for the sin I committed. So he went to the forest, and both Kunti and Madri also accompanied him. What a pitiable state. He has two beautiful wives, and he has to control. And he could not have any children. At that time, Kunti remembered something and she narrated her story. So we go to that story now. As I said, so many stories are interwoven in Mahabharata. Otherwise, there is no Mahabharata story. All these stories together make up a grand story. Now, flashback. Kunti was about 12, 13 years old. She was a very disciplined, dedicated, devoted, virtuous, humble, a girl of all noble qualities. She was the daughter of Kunti Bhoja. Once Durvasa Rishi came to see Kunti Bhoja. And Durvasa said, I am going to stay here for some time and I want to do some anushtana, some rata, something he wanted to observe, perform. I need someone to attend to my needs. I want a personal attendant for all my needs. Now, I am sure you all have heard the name of Durvasa. That Rishi had a short fuse. He was a short-tempered Rishi. So, anybody coming in his proximity, they were always scared. And that too, he was going to have this anushtana and someone should serve him. So, whoever is chosen, you need someone of extreme patience, intelligence, dedication. And so, when Durvasa Rishi made this request or demand, he doesn't request, he demanded. Kunti Bhoja thought, only my daughter can do that. She is the best candidate for that assignment. So he instructed her that she should serve Durvasa Rishi, look after all his needs. And as I said, Kunti was a dedicated daughter. When the father bid her to do that, she said fine, and she did take care of Durvasa Rishi, and she did so well. She did a wonderful job. And Durvasa Rishi was so pleased. He was so pleased. She did not make even a single mistake. Durvasa was so pleased with her. And he told her, I am very pleased with you. So, I will give you some mantras, special mantras with which you can invoke devatas. Surya, Dharmaraja, Vayu, Indra, and the Ashwini Kumaras. Any of them you can invoke. You chant these mantras and those devatas will appear in front of you. So, you have a direct line to any of these devatas with these mantras. Naturally, a 12, 13-year-old, she was curious. When you get a new toy, you want to play with it. And so she has gotten these mantras, and that too from Durvasa Rishi. She wanted to check it out. And so she was watching sunrise, beautiful sunrise. And then she chanted the Surya mantra, the mantra that the Rishi had given her for invoking Surya Bhagavan. And the sun god, bright and brilliant, appeared in front of her and said, "You call me, and I'm here." She was so frightened. So frightened. Imagine a young girl and Surya Bhagavan with his brilliance standing in front of her. "Oh no, out of just curiosity, I just invoked your name. I don't want anything." Surya Bhagavan said, "Devadas darshan cannot go in vain. You invoked me through that mantra, and that is no ordinary mantra. Nobody gets it just like that, and you have it. And you call me, I'm here, and my presence, cannot go without a purpose, cannot be fruitless, cannot be in vain. I will bless you." I don't know whether it's bless or a curse, which is worse, The sun god said, "I will bless you with a child." And he just disappeared. Poor Kunti, she was not even married. So what am I going to do? So when the baby was born, she didn't know what to do. Now we may think she could have done so many things. All right? But imagine a teenager. What could she do? So all that she could think of was to put the child in a basket and let it float away in the river, hoping and praying that the child would be safe and somebody would pick up the child and raise the child. She did that. And that child was also no ordinary child. That was the son of Surya Bhagavan. The child, since birth, had a special armor on the body. So, as the basket was floating down the river, a Suta, a charioteer, saw something floating with a child, a basket floating with a child in it. The little baby was radiant. So he picked up the child, took it home, and gave it to his wife. His wife's name was Radha. So the child was known as Radheya, son of Radha, Radheya. So the charioteer belonged to that caste. Him and his wife belonged to that caste, and they did that work. And the child would be in that family. Child is a divine child, but in this birth, this is how the child was growing. The child also had an earring. So the child was born with a body armor and an earring, Kavacha Kundala, here. So since he had that in his earring, he was called Karuna. Karna. Now, Karna's story is also very eventful, fateful, very interesting. You can have the story of Karna by itself. I'm sure some of you would have seen Karna's movie in different languages. They would have come. The father is sun god, and the mother is the venerable Kunti. And yet, fate raised him as a lower caste son. Anyway, we have to leave Karna's story here. Okay? We will pick it up because it is very important. So, that's why I shared that story at this time. Kunti's purity was intact. She had the child through Surya Bhagavan, but she was chaste only. And now, she said, because of Pandu's curse, we cannot have any children. She remembered those mantras, that she had those mantras. And she had also tested them out at that time, and it worked. Now, this is a good opportunity to deploy that mantra. I remember that Rishi gave me those boons. So, if I invoke those gods, she told Pandu, with your permission, our Vamsha Parampara will continue. So Pandu agreed to that suggestion. That is a good suggestion. So she invoked Dharmaraj, and then Vayu and Indra. And with those mantras and the invocation, Yudhishthira, Bhima and Arjuna were born respectively. So Yudhishthira is the son through Dharmaraja. Bhima is Vayuputra's, he is Vayuputra, Vayu's son, and Arjuna is Indra's son. Then Kunti said, I also have a mantra for Ashwini Kumaras. And she said, I will share that with Madri. She gave that mantra to Madri, who used it to invoke the Ashwini Kumaras, and Nakula and Sahadeva were born. Thus, they became the Pancha Pandavas. So the news reached Hastinapura. Breaking news, and they rejoiced at the good news. Children are all Devata Putras, they had divine virtues. All the children were growing nicely. Now, controlled, restraint, all that is fine, but one day, as fate would have it, Pandu saw Madri, and she was so beautiful. Desire rose in his mind, and he could no longer resist it. She tried to prevent him, tried to remind him about the curse. She tried everything, but to no avail. And as soon as he touched her, he just fell to the ground dead. The end was instantaneous. The Rishi's curse, it would never fail. When you read all these stories, hair stands on its end. Such a great kingdom and all those men of valor, and this was the fate. You know what happened? Bhishma had to take on the custodial responsibility. All the children were young. Dhritarashtra and Gandhari had 101 children, including one girl. 100 sons and one daughter they had. Daughter was called Dushila, and the sons were called Duryodhana, Dussasana, and all that and so on. All du. Now when Pandu died, Madri said, I will go sati. I will also burn myself in the funeral pyre. Kunti also wanted to do so. But Madri said, no, you should not. You are such a good mother, you will be impartial to all children. The boys need a mother. If both of us go, no father, no mother, that will be terrible. No. So, your noble qualities are there. You will treat all the children as your own sons. So, you stay and I will go. And she did that. So, Kunti came to Hastinapura with the children, and Bhishma had to take care of all of them. Bhishma, as I said, what a person. What a great soul. He never married, did not have children, no throne, no royal kingdom, but he had all the responsibilities. And now the children were growing. Even though Dhritarashtra was the elder brother, if he had become the king, then his son would have become the Yuvraj and all that. But that's all past history. Pandu was the king, and so only Yudhishthira becomes the Yuvraj in due course of time. The heir apparent, prince. So now Duryodhana did not like the Pandavas because he had the ambition of becoming the sole king. He was also wicked, evil right from the beginning. Even when he was young. From childhood only he was bullying and all that was going on. The boys have to be taught the art of warfare. They are all Kshatriyas, so they have to learn those skills, archery and all that. So they needed a guru. And Dronacharya was chosen as the guru. So now we have to tell the story of Dronacharya. That is also another story that is interwoven here. All these stories are important because all things happen one after the other. They are all interrelated. The roots are somewhere, but they all come together. So this is the story of Dronacharya here. Now, Drona was studying in a Gurukula. He was a Brahmana by birth, And during his school days, there was this Drupada, the prince of Panchala Desha. So in those days in the Gurukula, the Brahmanas, Kshatriya, Vaishya, family children, they all came to study. That is how that educational system was at that time. It's not that each one had their own school. Not like that. They all came. And so, Drona, a Brahmana, and Drupada, a Kshatriya, they were there and they were very good friends also. They were very good friends. After they finished their studies, Drupada went back. He went back to his kingdom, and Dronacharya would go back to his parents. After his studies, he would go back. He got married. And they would start the Grihastha-ashrama, take up a profession, whatever it is. Now, Drona, even though he was a Brahmana, he became very dexterous in archery. A Brahmana must study Veda, Vedanta and teach them. But he became a teacher of Dhanur Vidya. So, he became a teacher, which is good. That's also consistent with a Brahmana. Brahmana can teach. Ideally, if they teach the Veda, Vedanta, etc., that would be ideal, but they can teach the other subjects also. Anyway, he was a teacher, and we all know in every country the teachers are not paid that much. So he needed money. So he remembered, Drupada had told him, if I needed any help before leaving, Drupada said, you are my best friend, so if you need any help at all, at any time, feel free. Come ask me, I'll help you. So he remembered that. So he went to see him. As friends in school and college, we make so many promises. Not all promises are kept. Drupada went back to the kingdom. He was a totally different person. Very different from the prince Drupada who was in the Gurukula. He didn't like a poor Brahmana coming to him, claiming that he was his childhood friend and all that. And Drona and Drupada, they were not like Sri Krishna and Sudama. That pair was different. You all know Sudama's story. Drupada didn't treat Drona as Bhagwan Sri Krishna treated Sudama. Drupada behaved very arrogantly. He would not even recognize Drona and said horrible things. That hurt Drona's pride and ego very badly. He said to himself, right now, I cannot do anything. I am a poor Brahmana and Drupada is a powerful king. But I will teach him a lesson. I'll teach him a lesson. So he wanted something, some ashraya, some support, where he can get a job, a shelter, and everything, and avenge the dishonor. Drona was no ordinary person. by birth and by his ability to learn and teach, he had the ability. He was a good student and he was a good teacher. So he had that. The profession he has chosen was to teach Kshatriya skills. That's just fine. So, seeking employment, he went to Bhishma. And he put in an application for a teacher's job. Bhishma looked at his resume, was impressed, and he hired him on the spot. And Bhishma also had a need. He had to teach these 105 children. And he had enough kids to start a school right away. So they started studying. The sons of Dhritarashtra were called Kauravas, belonging to the Kuru dynasty. Of course, that designation can be given to the Pandavas also. They also come in the same dynasty, but they are called, to separate them from the sons of Dhritarashtra, Pandavas as sons of Pandu. Now what we find, that traits from the childhood, the Pandavas were divine children. And they had it all. They had beauty, valor, virtues, all qualities were there in them. Of course, as I said, they were not totally devoid of some imperfections. That will always be there. Little flaws will be there. But overall, they were most righteous. On the contrary, Duryodhana and his party were very wicked right from the beginning. That kind of evil, wickedness, they were all there. And Duryodhana always saw that the Pandavas as thorn on his way to the throne. He thought, as long as they are there, I'll never be able to, I will never be able to have unrivaled kingdom. And among the five also, he saw Bhima was powerful and strong. So he thought, if Bhima is killed, half the strength will go away. So his eyes were always on Bhima. So he was so evil that even as young boys, he mixed poison with food and tried to poison Bhima. He tried that. Luckily, Bhima was son of Vayu. God was on his side, Devata was on his side, and Vayu Devata especially. So when he was given poison, he took it, but that God digested, did not kill him. Nothing happened to him. Not only did he try to poison him, he also tried to drown him. All those tricks he tried. Nothing worked. Yudhishthira was aware of all that. But he asked his brothers, be careful, just be careful. Don't make a big issue out of it. Okay? Just be careful, that's all. Now they were all growing, and then one day Dronacharya said, there will be a test. He was a teacher. And when you teach in any school system, there has to be a test. I have taught you archery and many other skills, so many arts of warfare, and I want to find out who has learned well, how much skills you have acquired. I want to give you all a test. So he made a bird and set it on a branch of a tree. And he said, you should shoot an arrow at the bird's eye. In target shooting, we call it bullseye. Of course, this bird is an artificial bird. Otherwise, the bird will fly away. And this would also be a real tough test. It was not straight shooting. You don't look at the bird straight and its eyes and shoot at it. It's not like that. An additional level of difficulty was added. They have to shoot looking at the reflection of the bird in water below. To look at the reflection. The reflection is in a pool on the ground, and the bird is on a tree branch. So one by one, each student was called and was asked first, what do you see? Each one gave a different answer. Each one gave a different answer. One said, I see the beautiful sky, see a wonderful tree, nice branches. Various things they said. Dronacharya said, get out. You are not even qualified to shoot. When Arjuna's turn came, he said, I see only the bird's eye. I don't see anything else. Good, shoot. And he did it and hit right on the target. A plus Arjuna got. So Dronacharya loved the Pandavas because of their virtues. Although he treated all of them fairly, among them he had a soft corner for Arjuna. And he was so pleased with Arjuna's performance. Now, Duryodhana saw it and did not like it. He thought Dronacharya was partial to Arjuna. Anyway, the wife of Dronacharya, her name was Kripi, and their son was Ashwatthama. And Kripi's brother was Kripacharya. So Dronacharya and Kripacharya were brothers-in-law. He was also a great archer. They were both teachers. Dronacharya was so attached to his only son Ashwatthama, and he used to teach him some special secrets of warfare. So even a person of such stature as Drona, they have some doshas. Then he trained these people and then said, I want something Guru Dakshina. So this was the tradition that students are taught, and once the teaching is over and they graduate, at that time, the students or their parents offer dakshina to the teachers so that the teacher can continue the Gurukula, the ashrama, etc. Sometimes the students give whatever they can, and sometimes the teacher also, if he has special requirements, he needs something in particular, he would share that. So this way Drona said, I want something from you all. you are all Kshatriyas, I have trained you well. Then there is this Raja Drupada. I want you all to go, get him, imprison him and bring him. I want you to catch that Raja Drupada. I want him brought before me. He had the fire of revenge burning in his heart for such a long time. That's not a great virtue for a Brahmana. But that's what it is. He was employed by Bhishma and he owed his allegiance to him. All that is also there. Later on we will see how all this come to play. You must know all these facts so we understand how the war unfolds later on, how people take sides. Anyway, at this stage of the story, he asked his students to go to Panchala Desha and catch hold of Drupada and bring Drupada to him. And they did just that. These were all, brave young men. Not a problem at all. So Dronacharya asked Drupada, do you know who I am? Because this was, 15, 18 years back. Do you know who I am? And of course Drupada knew. You can imagine how humiliated Drupada would have felt. He said, Drona said, I've done what I needed to do. Okay? He still had some Brahmanatva in him. Okay? He didn't say, throw him in prison for the rest of his life or anything like that. You dishonored me. So I wanted to humiliate you, that's all. Score. All done. So he did not kill him or anything. Now I release you, go. Your life is in my hands. That is humiliation enough for you. So with that humiliation, Drupada was released. The story does not end here. We will stop that story for now and we will bring it back at the right time. So Drupada was also burning. What a humiliation. A Raja, a king, brought down by a Brahmana. So he said, I have to do something. I have to settle this score. What to do? So he consulted some Panditas, some Brahmanas. The Brahmanas told them, you perform this yajna to get a son who will be the destroyer of Drona. His sole job will be to kill Drona. So Drupada did that yaga, and from that yajna he got a son and he was called Drishtadyumna. So keep all this in your computer brain to retrieve as and when we need. So Drishtadyumna was Drupada's son. Drupada also had one most beautiful daughter. She was called Draupadi, Yajnaseni, because she came from Yajna. Another name for her is Panchali. There are no words to describe how great she was. She was one of a kind, extraordinary. But we will leave them there for now. We go back to the main story. So the Kauravas and Pandavas were all learning under Dronacharya and Kripacharya. When the teacher thinks that the student has learned well, he will organize a public performance, a debut on the stage. It's called Ranga Pravesha or Arangetram. These days, you're all familiar with Arangetram for Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi, all that. So the Rajkumaras have learned different skills and they should display what they have learned. All people must assemble in the stadium and watch that exhibition. That day was fixed. And that day was a week from today, next Sunday. Good? Good going? I have to edit so many things to keep to the main story. So we will watch that Ranga Pravesha next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya